And I'm going to kind of explain the format for this evening also. Each candidate will be asked the same questions and given 3 minutes to respond. The sequence for answering questions will rotate alphabetically. The candidates will rotate this alphabetical sequence, with each candidate alternating responding to the first question. The rotation sequence will continue in this fashion throughout the end of the question and answer portion of the forum. In the interest of time, there will be no opening statements. There will, however, be an opportunity for each candidate to provide a closing statement. These closing statements should be no longer than 3 minutes. The sequence for closing statements will also be determined by random drawing between the candidates prior to the start of the forum. Sabrina Zizo, with the Shelby County Reporter, will act as our timekeeper and will provide each of the candidates with a countdown during their answer and comments by holding up a card indicating the time remaining. Doug Adair, a volunteer with the Greater Shelby Chamber Governmental Affairs Work Group, will be asking the questions of each of the candidates. Now let's begin with our first questions.
Thank you, Daniel. We'll begin as he mentioned alphabetically, so we'll start with Mr. McLaughlin. Why do you want to be mayor of the city of Westover?
Well, good evening, everybody. I think I know just about everybody here, but it's good to see everybody here. And I just wanted to mention, just as a side note, a personal side note, when we start meetings, we start with prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. So I wish we had been able to fit that in tonight. That's just a personal comment. This is a position that pays $700 a month. It's a position that's more of a service position in the city of Westover. I've been mayor for 12 years, and we've come a long, long way. We've been able to accomplish a lot. Frankly, I want to see that followed through. It's a position where it's not financially rewarding. There's no financial reward for getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and coming to your house, or if you have an issue, or there's no financial reward for working through issues like that, Monday through Friday, whatever they are. But we've come so far from being 2.5 square miles to 22 square miles, and from being 900 people to a couple of thousand people. From being, when I became mayor, we had a $77,000 a year budget, and that's grown a good bit. We got a lot of things that are on the horizon, that are Dollar General in nature, if you would, that are beautiful additions to the city. There are a lot of plans that have been laid out that we've been able to look at and see and know that those things are coming. And it's my desire to see that follow through. I want to see those kinds of things actually come to hardscape. And there are issues that we're working on, like road issues or things like that. I want to see those follow through too. But frankly, I want to see the fun stuff follow through. We've been through some tough times, and we've had to go through the Great Depression, and we've had to go through the hard economic times when I didn't know how we were going to be able to pay the payroll and the light bill at the same time. But we were able to get through that without adding the property tax. We were able to get through that in spite of the conditions that we were in. So I want to enjoy the fruits of our labor. I want to see those things actually come to hardscape. So my desire is that, if you will, it's more of a service issue from my position. It's more of a personal give back to the community, a ministry, if you will. It's my calling in life for as long as you'll have me. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, the same question. Why do you want to be mayor of the city of Westover?
Well, first I want to say thanks to everybody, and well said. We have gone through a lot of hard times here in Westover. Our town is full of good folks. I think our town is willing to get involved if they can help accomplish the goals, if they can input their ideas. I think if the city council and the planning commission and the board of zoning adjustment members are allowed to get involved in a deeper level, that they would bring a a lot of good ideas that we could follow through on. I have also been involved in a lot of annexation. I was very deeply involved in the annexation of Westervelt, all that property to the east, and all of the Edelman property to the north of 280. I will talk a little later on about why I think I'm qualified to be mayor. I think that we've got a lot, I'm very excited about it. I think we've got a lot of rewards down the road that we can cash in on if our citizens can get involved. I think also that our citizens, our taxpayers, have a right to have more open and transparent actions of our city government. I'm not happy with the way our council has operated in the past, particularly 4 or 5 years, and I think that I can do a better job. I know I can do a better job at maintaining openness and fairness to everybody that asks what's going on. I think we also have an opportunity for a lot more growth in the right kind of areas, and I think I'm the person to go out and talk to folks to try to get that growth to come into the city. I have personally talked to restaurant owners, theater owners. I have been involved in economic growth and economic development, planning and zoning in other municipalities. And I believe I bring an abundance of those things to our city to take opportunity to use my talents. So that's where I stand. I just think that I really think I can do a better job. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll start with you again, Mr. Riggins, for the second question. What, in your opinion, are the priorities and responsibilities of the city's mayor?
Well, I think first and foremost, the safety, health, and welfare of citizens is our deafening cry. I think that there's a lot of things that can be done to help our citizens concerned with safety, health, and welfare. I think that one of the things that the mayor mentioned earlier was streets. I think we are in much better condition to address streets and the needs for streets than what we have done. I think that we've got to come together for a long-term plan on how to address those streets, but we've never, as a council, no one has ever, unless I missed more than 1 or 2 meetings in the last 15 years, no one's ever brought to us any kind of demonstrative plan to address any of our street issues. We have to do something with the speed limit at particular intersections within Westover. We've had too many deaths at Highway 51 and at Highway 55. We have, by the way, with the help of one of our council members who has been extremely involved with ALDOT, we have been able to get a light through ALDOT put up. We really, we're at the mercy of ALDOT. We can't say we're going to put lights up, but we can get a fire going to try to help that process. We desperately need a light at Highway 55. The ALDOT's been down here a couple of times to do traffic surveys on that area down there, but we have not been able to persuade them to go to the length of putting a full-fledged traffic signal up at the corner of Highway 55 and 280. There are some train track issues in Westover that we need to address. Hopefully, at some point in the near future, we'll be able to look at and plan for putting another fire station on the west side of the railroad tracks down there, so that we can respond a whole lot quicker than what we do now. if it's, if there's a train coming, the fire department's gonna have to go around about 2 miles out of the way, so we need to address that. But safety, health, and welfare of our citizens is, I think, the biggest concern and the biggest thing the government should be doing.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, the same question. What, in your opinion, are the priorities and responsibilities of the city's mayor?
Well, the city's mayor, the city's the chief executive officer of the city, which in a big city means one thing. In a city like Westover, it means he's a servant. It means he wants the trash taken out, he's got to take the trash out. It means that he's got to be hands-on. I agree, safety, health, and welfare is the priority. Safety, health, and welfare is definitely the priority of the city as a whole. But the city mayor in a city the size of Westover, Alabama, has got to be hands-on. He's got to be engaged with folks. Got to be here, working here, living here, engaged here, being here, hands-on, knowing what the problems are, anticipating problems, just being very, very involved in the city. From a safety, health, and welfare standpoint, I'm proud to say that Sheriff Santiago is an endorser of me being reelected. I'm grateful for that, because we have a wonderful relationship with the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office is tremendous, a tremendous asset of the city. So very, very grateful for our relationship there. Very grateful for our relationship with the deputies that are the boots on the ground guys that take care of the problems hands-on. I'm very grateful for the fire department. 2007, we had to start a fire department. We didn't have a choice. The fire department's come a long way, and a lot of people put their hand to the wheel to make that fire department be a very, very successful fire department. I'm very grateful for everybody that's put their hands on. We've got a 3 fire rating. Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but that's huge for us, almost unbelievable for us. Well, that's because we've been able to do creative things that maybe you can't do in other places or don't do in other places for whatever the reason. But those things have been validated here. Things like, if your house catches on fire, I'm going to be there helping. There are going to be other people there helping. But that's how we got to being able to have a full engine company and other things. There have been a lot of people engaged in that. It took a lot of brain power and work to make something like that happen. But that's a very real world component that a mayor in the city of the size of Westover has got to be all in. And so what are the priorities? Priorities are going to have to be involved in those kinds of things and be involved in the leadership issues all across the board, trying to help steer the bus in every possible way, and that means picking up a paintbrush when it's time.
Thank you. We'll begin the third question with you as well, Mr. McLaughlin. If you are elected, what specific skills or strengths do you possess which you believe will benefit the city of Westover?
Well, I've been in business since the 80s. So I've got a long history of business experience, long history of working through business issues and problems and successes and failures and them coming out positively. So got a long history of that to draw off of. I'm a certified municipal official, which is a fancy way of saying that I've developed relationships through the Alabama League over time to have relationships statewide to be able to draw from, folks to be able to go to. And if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, then I'll be the senior mayor in Shelby County. That'll put us in a position here in Westover that we've never been in before. So as the senior mayor of Shelby County, there's no tangible, you don't get paid $50 a month because of that. But what you do have is that you do have relationships. And now you know how it works. And now you're the guy that knows how it works a little quicker than your competitor. You're the guy that knows where to go get the problem solved. You're the person that knows how to go and draw off of those relationships in the county and throughout the state. So those are tangible things that I think that I bring that, in addition to that, I was chairman of the Planning Commission way back when we started the Planning Commission. So, you know, we've got a long history of not just knowing how our own local legislation works, but having been fully engaged in working to develop it. And then what I'm talking about there is the comprehensive plan we talked about earlier, a road plan, and how we're gonna develop roads. I said the fire department earlier, that was a major component of that comprehensive plan. We gotta have a strong fire department with a very strong fire rating. Done. Awesome. We should celebrate that as a community. That is a huge major deal. In that comprehensive plan that we worked on, we've got a complete road plan in there to start to draw off of, to develop how we're gonna develop roads from there, what we're gonna do. So, you know, it's hands-on. It's my business background. It's the education that I've been able to pick up. It's being able to be in a senior position now that we've never had that opportunity before. And it'll be nice, to be quite honest with you, when you enter a competitive state with your neighboring cities, to be the senior guy there, that'll be a nice spot for us to be in. So.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, the same question. If you are elected, what specific skills or strengths do you possess which you believe will benefit the city of Westover?
I too have been in business. I was a sales and marketing professional for 38 years. I managed about 400 employees. I managed them through HR situations. I managed them through knowing who their mom and daddy was and who their kids were and how old they were, and we were a family. I managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I used to have to account for 1% of a $750 million budget. I know how to count pennies, because when you count your pennies, the dollars fall into place. And I've always been good at counting pennies. The other qualifications that I believe give me strength are, first of all, I have been in planning and zoning. I am a building inspector after I got out of the sales and marketing. I was in real estate a while. I became a home inspector. I have my own home inspection company, which I don't do much at anymore, but I have it. I became a building inspector. From that, I became director of planning and zoning in the city where I work. I was with the city of Talladega for a year as a building inspector. I'm a certified planning and zoning official. I have worked in economic development. In fact, at one time I was our Westover's liaison for economic development in Shelby County before I had to go back and get a real job again in 2008. If anybody remembers what happened back then. I believe that I have the skill set to go out and sell businesses on why they ought to locate in Westover. As I said earlier, I have already just had discussions with some businesses. The mayor spoke of our comprehensive plan, and I was involved in the comprehensive plan, not as extensively as he was because I was already on the council. But instead of going with an outdated comprehensive plan, it's supposed to be updated every 5 years, and our comprehensive plan hadn't been updated in probably maybe 8 years, something like that. So we need to get on to updating our comprehensive plan to fit today's business that need to come in, and we also need to come in with we need some affordable housing in some areas, and I believe I know how to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, we'll continue with you with the fourth question. What are 3 specific things you hope to accomplish if you are elected mayor?
The first thing is, excuse me, I want to improve our fire department. I want to get a station number 2 in service across on the west side excuse me, of the railroad tracks to service that part of the city. I want to try to increase our manpower in the fire department. I think that we have gotten into a position where we can increase our manpower in the fire department. I think that we are in a position where we can call on more people to volunteer with the fire department than maybe we were a few years ago. But I am very interested in getting our fire department improvements done, and I'm very thankful for the 3 rating, and I'm very thankful for some of the folks that, a couple of them I see sitting out there in the crowd that had, you know, if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't have been able to even start a fire department. I also think that we've got to go after a couple of restaurants in this area. I get tired of going over the mountain, having to go over the mountain to get anything to eat. I don't like to go over the mountain. Nobody else probably does from around here. It's just a hassle. Our neighboring city up there has some nice restaurants, but we've got to do a better job at promoting business entry into Westover. I think we're in a good situation. We have a sewer system down here. The infrastructure is there for that. And then the other thing is we have got to start investing in youth athletics. We can't continue to allow our kids to go to Vincent or to go to Chelsea to play ball. It's getting to the point where, you know, kids are having a hard time even getting in there. A lot of kids are lying about their address. But we need to invest in, we had an opportunity, we just didn't have the money a few years ago to invest in youth athletics, but we need to invest in youth athletics in this city. And then I'm gonna throw in a 4th thing, if that's all right with the moderator there. We gotta get a 21st century internet system available in Westover. It's pathetic what we've got in Westover. So that's another thing that I would be wanting to move to the 21st century on.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, same question. What are 3 specific things you hope to accomplish if you are elected mayor?
Well, we're gonna agree on a lot of those things right there. I think fire department is certainly something that we got to bring staffing up. Quite frankly, we've got one paid guy at the fire department, and then the rest of the crew is folks that are available inside the city that have other responsibilities, that drop what they're doing and go to the fire or whatever the situation is. We've got to grow that so that we don't put stress on their personal lives. For example, you know, you go and you spend 5 hours there, the guy's got to work 5 hours longer the next day to be able to stay even. So thankful for all of those kinds of commitments that people put in to the city fire department. We've got to grow the staffing of the fire department ultimately. So what we started was a live-in program, a residence program. We copied a couple of programs that are very successful in other parts of the state. Really want to see those programs continue to grow. Those are very important components there because those programs put staffing inside the fire station that gives us the additional manpower, and it's almost like an athletic scholarship type arrangement, if you would. Then that is fed by a youth program that feeds into that program, feeds into the residence program. So without getting into the minutia, you got to see that grow. We've got to see that develop. We've got to see the paid staffing develop. We do have to see the station south of the railroad tracks because we've got a number of residents there. We do have to see station commitments grow. We've got to be able to bite those things off. Property's been secured for some of those places. Now we just got to find a way to build buildings and to put staffing there, put equipment there. The restaurant discussion that I heard earlier, I agree with that. Retail's changed a good bit since over the last 10 years. I think we've seen retail change in that Macy's is closing 700 stores, I think it is, that they announced today. So retail's gonna look different, most likely in Westover than it looks in some of our neighboring cities, but we gotta be able to take advantage of that. And we gotta be able to think about how we're going to take advantage of the new retail situation that we're in. How we're gonna ultimately build a sustainable community, sustainable meaning I don't have to go somewhere else to be able to have services for youth services, for ball fields, retail services, restaurants, the fire protection that we've got to have, and then one more thing, the seniors have to have services. So we've got to be able to develop a plan to have a standalone senior program and senior center. Those are the major components that I'd like to see taken on and not just thought about and planned for, but I think in the next 4 years we can accomplish those things.
Thank you. We'll continue with you, Mr. McLaughlin, with the fifth question. As mayor, how and when will you be accessible to the public?
Thank you. I live here. My office is here. I'm here 7 days a week. Open 8 to 5 at my office. City Hall phone rings through to my desk. I answer my own phone. If your house catches on fire at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to see me there. You're going to see me at Dollar General. I shop here when I can. Every time I can. I go to church here. I'm here 7 days a week. Obviously, I do go other places, but I'm here. This is where I am. I'm all in. So my office has been in the same place for a long, long time. Everybody knows where it is. I'm fortunate to be able to be in business where I can do that. But I'm here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My phone numbers are the same. My email's the same. So accessibility should be something that half the time I probably will find you. So, because I'm out in the community, I'm here, I'm available. I think it's important, to your question, that governance in our situation, we're about neighbors governing our neighbors among neighbors. We live here. I think it's important that people that are here are the ones that are making the decisions, that are the most impacted by those decisions. I think it's very important that people that are making decisions aren't in other parts of the state. They're not in other parts of the area, but they're here seeing what those decisions do and how they impact folks. And so, finding me is a pretty easy thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, the same question. As mayor, how and when will you be accessible to the public?
I do work full-time in Pell City, Alabama. I'll be working probably maybe close to another year. I have been the fill-in building inspector in Westover on 2 occasions, and I challenge anyone to find that here or otherwise that could not contact me when I was filling in as building inspector. I had people call me and tell me that they were not able to get in touch with anybody at City Hall, and at that time we had a part-time clerk working at night. So I believe that even though I am away from Westover more than I would like to be at this point in time, I am accessible. I've got a mobile phone. I have access to voicemail, or I would have access to voicemail. I would have access to forward my phone. I intend to spend as much time as necessary being in the office. The office, if I'm elected, the office will be in the town hall. It'll be back in the corner office in the town hall. I will have an open door policy, as I have for 35 years in business, for people to be able to get in to talk to me. May have to make an appointment, but That's the way it is. I understand that communications and being available to communicate with citizens is high priority. I'm in a situation, even as we speak now, where I have multiple contractors that come in and expect me to take the time during the day to visit with them, even though I'm slammed with appointments outside. I understand the importance of communication. I will be available to communicate with anybody. It won't take very long at all to get your phone call returned. I would have staff meetings on a regular basis with the employees with the city, and I have no doubts whatsoever that I will be available if and when the need arises.
Thank you. We'll continue with you, Mr. Riggins. What plans, if any, do you have to help attract more businesses into the city of Westover?
Well, we can't sit back on our bottoms and expect business to come to us. Through 35 years of sales and marketing, I do have some contacts in the business world. I have contacted some of those businesses. At the time, the last time that I had contact with a major business, we just didn't have enough rooftops. We didn't have enough people in Westover that they felt that the traffic would support them. Things are changing though now. Excuse me. The economy in this area has picked up. Building has picked up. We've added a lot of rooftops in Westover in the past couple of years, and that's been keeping Walter Bradford, the building inspector, real busy, and it's been keeping our zoning officer real busy, making the decisions about those sorts of things. Our building and our increase in building will bring other businesses. In spite of itself, Dollar General fell into our lap here about a year ago, and that's a start for business in this area. When people see one business go up, they get to thinking there must be enough traffic around to start a business. I am knowledgeable about who is looking to expand. I know how to, as I said earlier, I know how to talk to folks to get them to think about coming into a place like Westover. And I think the change is coming. It's going to be inevitable. We just need to make sure that we maintain the business growth and the rooftop growth in Westover the way we want it to do, based on what we put together as a comprehensive plan back in, I think, 2002 is when it was started on. We wanted Westover to be a wow place. We wanted people to say, when you go through Westover, say, wow, that's a nice place. Well, we've kind of gotten away from that, and we've allowed some things to go on in here in development that maybe we need to take a look at. And we also need to address our comprehensive plan. But addressing the comprehensive plan, and possibly incentives for businesses to come in to Westover, and aggressively going out and seeking business into Westover is what I would plan on doing if elected.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, what plans, if any, do you have to help attract more businesses into the city of Westover?
All right. Well, I guess the best way to answer this question would be to draw off of a very successful recruitment of a business, Edelman Properties. We all know about Edelman Properties, or at least most of us probably do. And that he has plans for a very large development on the Chelsea Game Preserve property. So that was back in 2002, 2003. I was planning commission chairman, found out about that, and knew we didn't have it. Knew he was going to develop the property. He's buying it. Know he's going to develop it. Know he's going to do something with it. And know that he's most likely going to go into our neighboring city, Chelsea, or he's going to go into Hoover. So found out that, so, you know, just began to aggressively pursue Edelman properties so that we could have, Westover could have a seat at the table. After a long period of time and a lot of people working on that, we were able to get to a place to where we were able to annex the property in, have the plans meet our comprehensive plan that we've talked about. So that is an example of what you have to do and what I'm doing throughout the day, whether it's a small scale something about having a weekly discussion about somebody wanting a restaurant here. I get asked about restaurants more than anything else. I'm for it too. But if it's a small scale something like that, if it's a larger scale development proposal, we can't sit back and wait for it to come to us. So that's one of the things that we've been able to grow into through the relationships that we've been able to develop, through the successes that we've been able to have, through having more arrows in our quiver. As we've been able to have successes and been able to compete successfully, now we're being able to get some attention, more and more attention to the proper kind of development that we want to have. We've had successes, Rambo Marine, Dollar General, Deal Avionics, Edelman Properties. There have been some successes, but it's about jobs. It's about the community that's well-rounded. Balance is the key to life. Mama told us that. All the mamas told us that. Balance is the key to life. It's about not having to go over the mountain for food, for jobs, for whatever the case is, and that's a tall order. But that's the order. And so that's what we got to recruit for. And it's not growth for just growth's sake. We remember the Florida Short Route. House, 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 business, business, house, house, house. You know, that's a nice concept. That's a nice thing to, why would we ever want to throw that away? So we embraced that when we were doing our planning, and that's the kind of thing that I think is important to be able to continue with.
Thank you. We'll continue the next question with you, Mr. McLaughlin. In your opinion, what are Westover's biggest strengths, and how do you as mayor plan to take full advantage of those strengths?
Westover's biggest strengths is people. Folks that live here a long time, love the city, love the place when it was a place and now it's a city. Biggest strengths is people. It's the people that buy into what we want to do, see the vision. Without a vision, the people perish, said a great man one day, and that's right. So seeing that vision and using their relationships to be able to come up with a solution to something that we're trying to solve for, that's the biggest thing. Another big asset that we have, we got 280, so we got a lot of traffic. So if we need traffic, we don't have much of a problem talking about traffic in the right form. Another huge asset that we have is beautiful property. We've got just gorgeous properties. We've got mountain ranges that are in the top 10 in the country. We've got beautiful, big, large tracts of property. You know, so the assets are tremendous. But the people is the most important thing. We've got a lot of talented folks that have a lot of good ideas, and we've been able to draw off those ideas, and that's why we were able to recruit Edelman Properties. That's why we were able to get Rambo Marine, Deal Avionics, grow. And everybody's pitching in. They see where we are. They know where we are in the grand scheme of things on 280, that it's the mountain, Chelsea, and now us. We're sitting in a facility right here that's been expanding consistently throughout the years because growth's been coming. And this is a great example of ServPro expanding and growing and growing and developing. And it's because the owner of ServPro sees the vision, sees Highway 280, sees the property, sees he can be successful here, and continues to work toward being successful. So those are the biggest assets.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, in your opinion, what are Westover's biggest strengths, and how do you as mayor plan to take full advantage of those strengths?
Well, I agree with the mayor. The people are primarily the strengths of this area. I believe in people, and I believe we do have a lot of people that have good ideas that we need to be drawing on. And I think we've not done a good job at drawing on people's strengths. and ideas. Highway 280 certainly should, if developed properly, should allow for Westover to bring in enough business to operate the city through sales taxes, and many years down the road, there shouldn't be any need for a property tax in Westover. Because of all the pristine, undeveloped tracts of property around, we have an opportunity in changing our or amending our comprehensive plan. We've got an opportunity to bring in affordable housing in areas that affordable housing needs to be in. We've had some folks come in and ask about wanting to put apartments on Highway 280. Well, that's not where we want apartments in our comprehensive plan now, and I don't think that's where we want it later. But we do need affordable housing, and I think the more affordable housing that we have here, the more of our kids can afford to stay in Westover when they grow up and get married. You know, there is a need for apartments, and we do have a lot of kids in the area right now. Back to Highway 280, we've got, I want to say approximately 10 miles of 280 road frontage. There are people in Birmingham and Hoover that would cut their right arm off to have that opportunity. I think that's just mainly the biggest strength that we have to look for in development, future development of Westover, and putting the right type businesses in the right type places, and continue to build rooftops.
Thank you. Continuing with the next question, Mr. Riggins, how would you describe Westover when asked by someone wanting to visit?
I would say that even though Westover does not have a lot of businesses, we are a great suburban area out here. We've got garden home communities that people fought us about allowing them to come in, that are just absolutely phenomenal neighborhoods. You need to go see some of the ideas that some of the folks have in some of these subdivisions, like Willow Oaks or the Villages or Carden Crest. There's a big diverse cross section of the types of neighborhoods that we have, and then you get over into folks that have a rural, maybe they've got horses, maybe they're like me, they got a few acres that they try their best to keep cut, but they enjoy looking at trees. They enjoy fishing in their ponds. There's just all kind of things. You can go down Highway 51 or Highway 55 in Westover, and there's no telling what you might see. You might see a truckload of hay coming down the street, or you might see the church at Chelsea Westover's ice cream truck going down the road ringing the bell. You might see somebody riding horses down the street. It's just such a diverse place that you need to come to Westover, and anyone that's looking for to change locations where they reside certainly needs to come to Westover and take a look at what might be had in Westover before they decide to go somewhere else and live. But I love Westover. We moved out here in 1997, January 97. It's just been a great experience. There have been a few waves and ripples along the way, but still just great people, just really great people, and the people make the landscape even more beautiful.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, how would you describe Westover when asked by someone wanting to visit?
How would I describe Westover by asking? Westover is a place that has a long history, and a lot of people go way back. Their family trees go way back here. They love this place. My family tree goes back for 5 generations here. My mom went to rock school. A lot of people in this room's families go back, way back. And it's just it's home. We remember the old Florida short route, the old Highway 280. It was the Florida short route back then, when there was a motel, and There was a restaurant there. There were gas stations and stores and the hardware store, but there were houses all dispersed among that. And that's what we kind of hope to preserve, you know, that kind of a thing where you got a town center, neighborhood centers, where you preserve that kind of heritage. That's a steep heritage that we got. We had multiple schools around the area, you know. And I know that a lot of our pride, if you will, was taken when the school was closed and we had to go to schools in other communities. And so to be able to reestablish that pride in our own city, where we work here, go to school here, and go to church here, and this is my home, this is where we live, so that the community has that kind of a pride. I saw that in the park, when we built the park. I thought, well, you know, people work in their gardens, or they walk up and down, or they do whatever they do. And so it'll catch on. If people move in and all that, it'll catch on. But before we completed the walking trail, people were walking on it. I'm talking about before we got the gravel down, not asphalted, people were walking on that. People go out there at daybreak, they're out there at midnight. That's a focal point of our community. That's like the town center. That's really cool to be able to have that kind of public pride in a park. People that are happy to see that I got a place of community. I got a place where I can be a part. It kind of starts to replace the school that was closed, or that talks about the sawmills, or whatever that people talk with love in their hearts about those kinds of things. And well, where do we go now? You know, that's the kind of thing that we've got to keep developing and working, because people have a pride in Westover. They do. The folks that are from Westover love Westover. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And so, ultimately, we've heard it 2 or 3 times tonight, but to be able to provide for our kids, our grandkids, our grandparents, the whole community, that's what I'm after. That's what I want to see happen. It's going to take a long time to do and a whole bunch of people working at it. But if we don't have to send our kids off to some other community for them to have access to things, that's ultimately what we're going to try to do.
Thank you. Continuing with the next question, where do you see the city of Westover in 4 years?
Well, it's going to be the best city in Shelby County, and we're going to be setting our sights on the metro area. I mean, I say that, you know, we've got to look at it being, I don't know how to say it other than the best city in Shelby County. We've got an opportunity. We're in a good place. We're in a good place where we've grown, where our assets have grown 800%. Our revenues are up 45% year over year. We've got new businesses that now are committing and then looking attractive. Do you think people may drive by a Dollar General to come to ours? Pretty good looking Dollar General. So where do I see it? I see those kinds of things expanding, so that we find more and more places like the Dollar General that we're proud of and that we point to. The more and more successes that we're proud of and that we point to. So I think that a little tough to find words, but if you point back toward the plans that we talked about with the downtown area, the town center, with the neighborhood center, I see that being something that we can do through parks, through the ball fields, through the parks that we have, through additional parks. Those are things that we can do quicker and not have to wait on the town center. Those are places that we can begin to build more community, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people not having to go to Chelsea or Vincent to play ball, or the senior center or whatever, building community here. So I see community growing, and growing a lot, and growing across the board, from the youth to the seniors. And I go back to balance is a key to life. We can't focus on just one group, because we want the whole family here. We don't want to alienate anybody. We want the whole family here. So I see more parks. I see more senior centers. I see more access of maybe we could do we've talked about this at the planning commission, a water park, you know, it's not a pool, I'm losing my phrase here, but it's where you go and the splash pad, yeah. You know, splash pads aren't that hard. Those are the kinds of community things I see.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, where do you see the city of Westover in 4 years?
I see the city maintaining the old time traditions over on the old 280 highway, except I see that area being somewhat cleaned up. I really see some blight around in some areas that I'd like to see cleaned up. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that agree with me on that, but we do have a heritage that we need to maintain. I think we need to go after some businesses that employ folks in large numbers, maybe to the notes to the tune of something like office parks. We've got to go out and aggressively recruit someone to come in and develop an office park. Office buildings are going to give way the majority of folks 10 years down the road somewhere to work, because most folks are getting into the tech business now. We don't have a whole lot of laborers that are needed anymore, so things are moving toward tech, and we need to find a way to be a niche in Westover for high-tech businesses to come here. I don't know exactly what that plan might be, but I do know that we've already talked to a couple of folks about the need for businesses being here with offices, and then those sandwich shops and things like that go along with supporting an office park. It amazes me that when Daniel Corporation built the office park up in Inverness up there was I think there was Perrin's service station up there that didn't even sell landscape materials at the time, and there was a buffalo field farm on both sides of Highway 280. And once they got that established there, Daniel Corporation, folks just came from everywhere to work there. And that can happen here in Westover with that sort of planning and with that sort of aggressive recruitment. But again, it's going to take aggressive recruitment for us to be able to build the city that we'd like to have in the next 4 years.
Thank you. And continuing with the next question, Mr. Riggins, what, in your opinion, can Westover citizens do to help make Westover an even better place to live and do business?
That is a great question, and I think that the answer to that is something that I touched on earlier. There are so many people in Westover that have great ideas that we have not tapped into yet. We had, when we were working on the comprehensive plan, and as I said, I was not that involved, but I believe we had 13 public meetings, as best I recall the numbers to be, and we had the same 4 people from the whole town to attend it. We've got to somehow get our citizens interested and involved in what's going on in this city. We've got to get our citizens coming up to the council meetings and say, you know, what you doing with this money? Why are we spending this money? We've got to give our citizens a chance in a council meeting to speak if they want to speak. Not that they've been muffled, but we've got to get them interested in coming up there to council meetings, and we've got to get them to come to planning commission meetings, and we've got to get some ideas. We've got to solicit ideas from folks that know a lot of things. We've got to solicit ideas from our public safety folks, our first responders. We've got some police officers that live in this city that work in other cities that probably have great ideas that they could bring to the table. We've got all kind of firefighters that live in this city that go to other cities to work. that could bring a lot of ideas to the table. We've just got to somehow motivate our citizens, beg our citizens, plead with our citizens to get them involved and get them to bring ideas to us, and that will set this city on fire. It'll set the city on fire for Westover, like sometimes you get on fire for other things. So we have a great opportunity for that sort of input and that sort of development of human resources.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin, what, in your opinion, can Westover citizens do to help make Westover an even better place to live and do business?
Yeah, get more and more involved in the community. Get involved in city boards, city public safety, city commissions, I agree with all that. I think that's right. You gotta get involved. And I think the way to get involved is to find what you like to do, become a part of that. The ideas are endless. We got folks around here that have a lot of good ideas. And it is finding a way to be able to bring people in. And just, quite frankly, the way it works is if everybody's pretty happy about things, nobody comes to the meetings. Nobody's there. Because they're all pretty happy about things. But you rile up some folks because you did something when they didn't think you should, and they'll fill the room up, right? So what you do want, though, is what we had here the other day. We had the other day a couple of people that said, hey, I want some flags down 280 for Labor Day, 4th of July, those kinds of things. Hey, good idea. I want some flags down there. Let's start where we are, right? So they came and they said, we want some flags. Well, they didn't get the funding that they wanted as quickly as they wanted it, so they just went out and raised the money. Said, okay, the flags are paid for now. So now I just want to go put the flags up. I want to order the flags and go put the flags up. That's the kind of thing that's starting. That's good stuff. I mean, so we're going to have flags up in the median of Highway 280. They're going to start with just a little ways on each side of the intersections, and then just keep adding those flags and growing that during the Labor Day, 4th of July, and that kind of thing. That's the kind of energy, though, that's starting, that's coming out of the community. There's another thing that we started. A group of people got together, started it. It's real fresh, beginning to grow and develop. It's a business association. It's just a group of people. It's not meant to replace the chamber or try to replace the chamber or anything like that. It's meant to become a unified voice in the community that talks among themselves, business owners among themselves, talking business owner issues, and then trying to find what is it that we need, how can we go about solving this, who can we go to solve this, who can we recruit to give us whatever it is that we're after. So those are the kinds of things that have started. Little things, if you would, like flags. But can you imagine what that's going to do for us? It's going to be great. Things like the business association, giving us a forum to solve our own problems. Those are the kinds of things that I think are going to grow and develop, and we'll see more and more of.
Thank you. And continuing with you, Mr. McLaughlin, to our final question. What, in your opinion, are the greatest challenges facing Westover, and how do you as mayor plan to address these challenges?
Well, Westover, the greatest challenge would be that if you look at Westover right now and you drive down Highway 280 and it's 5 miles of 280, and you say there's not a lot here. There aren't any businesses here. If you put us though in a downtown area, it's kind of impressive. I don't think about it. Put those things together. It starts to look pretty nice. You know, this is a pretty nice business community for a small town. Our challenges could be that it becomes something we don't want it to be. We talk about the Florida Short Route and Comprehensive Plan, how we wanted to achieve this goal, that goal, the other goal. But it could become something we don't want it to be. It could become whatever that is. And I hear people say, well, I don't want the signs just every which way. Well, we've got a plan for that. Signs not being every which way. Dollar General, again, you point to as the latest example. But it could become it being whatever the situation is in the city. Something that we don't want. So the biggest challenge is to continue to go along the path that the people want. We're ultimately gonna do what y'all want to do. I mean, this ain't about me. It ain't about us. It's about y'all. We're ultimately gonna, whatever y'all decide is what we're gonna do, you know? And I think the biggest challenge is not telling the story in such a way that we buy in to where we're headed. And then we want to go in that direction because we see the value. And we see that that's what's important. And that that is what we want to have happen. And if we lose our course on whatever the issue is, or the grand macro scheme of thing, or the small thing, or whatever, we could make some mistakes that we're going to have to live with for the rest of some of our lives. Maybe for 30, 40 years, or whatever, you know. We could not have the successes that we want to have. When we talk about things for our kids and things for our seniors and people having to go other places. So the biggest challenge, I think, would be to have people be involved, but at such a level to where we pretty much had the last few years. They're not angry. They're not filling the room up with pitchforks and torches. And that's a pretty good indicator as to where we are and which direction we've gone. So.
Thank you. Mr. Riggins, what, in your opinion, are the greatest challenges facing Westover, and how do you as mayor plan to address these challenges?
Well, development of our property in Westover is going to be a big challenge. We've already had a lot of folks tell us we need to take our comprehensive plan and throw it in the trash can because we're asking developers to donate basically a portion of their property for service roads, for parking in the rear, to make the developments of retail along the 280 area, which is called the 280 overlay project. But we're asking them to have install service roads off 280 to try and keep 280 in this area from becoming like 280 is from Chelsea westward toward Birmingham. If you go up and look at in Inverness, there's about a half mile of service road area up there that was started in good faith many, many years ago, and greedy folks allowed businesses to come in and do what they wanted to, and they forgot about service roads, and they forgot about parking in the rear of retail outlets, and they forgot about trees along, landscaping along the front of properties, and frankly, developers don't want to spend the money on that type thing. So we're going to have to either take a tough stance and have public input to decide whether this is really what we want to continue to do, or we're going to throw it out to the wind and let folks come in and develop what they want to develop in the Westover area. I think that we have a perfect opportunity in the next few months, I would think. I believe I had heard that there was going to be a traffic light installed somewhere around the Chelsea clock tower up there in Chelsea Park. When that happens, we need to look into investing in property up there that we can expand the public right-of-way for service roads. Maybe we need to somehow get a grant writer that's knowledgeable in that area to start service roads somewhere in Westover, and preferably close to rooftops, so that we can show the developers that we are really, really dedicated to the process of managing traffic in that manner along our corridor. But in the meantime, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a challenge. And we're going to have everybody involved in pushing us along and cheerleading for us.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion of the evening and brings us to closing statements. The candidates randomly drew for a closing statement position at the beginning of the evening, and Mr. Riggins will begin with his 3-minute closing statement.
I hope this young lady in front's not going to be as tough on this 3 minutes. She's been off the rest of the night. Well, first I want to thank the Chambers and the Shelby County Reporter and ServPro and all the citizens for allowing me to present my ideas and positions. I've been visiting and knocking on doors for about 6 weeks now, and it's been a very good experience, but it doesn't look like I'm going to make every home in the next 12 days, and I apologize for that. I believe our city wants a consistent, honest, and trustworthy leader. I believe our city needs a cooperative and transparent mayor who will work well with and not fight with and withhold information from the council. We must have a cooperative and open council to move Westover forward. Foremost, there are 6 present and former council members, 2 former fire chiefs, 2 former clerks, and 2 former planning commission chairs supporting me in the mayor's race. That should tell us something. I have managed multi-million-dollar budgets for many years during my professional career, and for the past 7 years I have worked full-time in planning, zoning, and economic development with established municipalities. I believe this qualifies me to lead Westover into the future. Council, Planning Commission, and Board of Zoning members should be informed and involved prior to any deals being struck by any other person in control of this city's governmental functions. Council should approve all contracts and should have an opportunity to review bills on file on a regular basis. The finances of the town should be reviewed by council monthly and in a timely manner, and I'll work to improve our credit rating for Westover. The finances of the town should be audited every year without fail. We need to continue improvements in all aspects of public safety, as I mentioned. I'd like to see Westover citizens have real Westover addresses with mail delivery. I'll restart the dialogue with the United States Postal Service immediately. I believe we must invest in youth sports in Westover. If I'm elected, I will immediately contact Charter, Spectrum, and other alternatives to current internet providers for all of Westover residents. I'd like to see some cleanup of blight in the area. I'd like to go after any grants out there with someone knowledgeable in grant application experience for things like sidewalks, street lights, road signs, parks. Business has to be aggressively solicited. We can't sit back and wait on it to come to us. All kinds of good ideas come from the ordinary citizens, and I'll immediately reach out to Shelby County to rebuild a good relationship with the county officials. I'd like to explore a 280 corridor joint municipal port with neighboring municipalities, and I'm excited about the future of Westover. And if you share that excitement, I ask you to vote for me on Tuesday, August 23rd. Thank you.
Well, this is a place that I love. We got to think outside the box to get the job done, because we don't have the resources here, the age that other cities have. A lot of cities have just done it that way for a long time. I mean, we've got a lot of resources, a lot of money in the bank. You know, we've had to grow those kinds of things here. We had to grow it from scratch. We had to do things that they don't do in other places, like tax incremental financing. Tax incremental financing is so new to the state of Alabama, we actually went to the judge to have him validate what we were doing. That's how we've been able to be successful. And we've had a lot of successes because we do things different. We do things different because we have to do things different. That's why we're here today. The groundwork's laid for a very successful city. And the things are in place that just now are we getting to a place where we have resources available to add some of the things we've talked about tonight. I'm not a proponent of access management roads. I'm a huge proponent of connecting parking lots. I'm a huge proponent of doing things outside the box. Because that's what works for us. It works for us because it has to. It works for us because other folks don't do it. It's embraced. And the results show in the successes that we had. It's not a little bitty success to have a 3-fire rating, to have Edelman Properties join us, to have a beautiful Dollar General, to have the Rambo Marines and the others. Those are big successes. Grants. We use grants so much through, that's how we get the parks, that's how we get the storm shelter, that's how we get the library expansion, that's how we get most everything we have is through those kinds of, we've got to be aggressively leaning forward. We've got to lean forward in our thought. How are we going to develop the kind of place that we want to have? We've got to be a forward-leaning bunch. That's what I do, what I know how to do. I love this place. I do want to thank the folks that have endorsed me. I want to thank the folks that have supported me. People have volunteered. They've helped in so many ways. You guys are just the best in the world. I'm so grateful to you. Y'all are just great friends, great supporters, and I just can't thank you enough. I'm going to read the endorsements just so I don't miss anybody, because I just wanted to be sure to let you know about them. And those are Pastor David Wooten at New Life Church, been a long-time friend. Miss Navadura, who was Miss Senior Alabama 2012. Pastor Danny Lovett, the Church of Chelsea Westover. Dr. Robbie Hayes, who's our our Shelby County Commissioner. Mr. David Wilson, the local business leader on ServPro. Mr. Luke Dura, former city council member. Mr. Al Cooper, local business leader at Coops Wholesale, and Sheriff John Samaniago. So I just wanted to be sure I thank each one of those. Thank you.
Thanks again to each of the candidates for joining us this evening and your willingness to share your vision for the city of Westover. We appreciate you taking time to share your thoughts and ideas with the audience. Thank you, audience, for being here. We hope that you found this very informative tonight. We encourage everyone to participate in the election, August 23rd, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.